1 Corinthians 11:5. But every woman that prayeth or prophesieth, not that the woman was allowed to pray publicly in the congregation, and much less to preach or explain the word, for these things were not permitted them. See Corinthians 1:14-34, 1 Corinthians 14:35, and 1 Timothy 2:12. But it designs any woman that joins in public worship with the minister in prayer and attends on the hearing of the word preached, or sings the praises of God with the congregation, as we have seen the word prophesying signifies, with her head uncovered. It may seem strange from whom the Corinthian women should take this custom, since the Jewish women were not allowed to go into the street or into an open or public place unveiled. It was the Jewish law that they should go out nowhere bareheaded. Yea, it was reckoned scandalous and ignominious to do so. Hence it is said, the uncovering of the head is a reproach to the daughters of Israel, and concerning the adulterous woman, it is represented as said by the priests, Thou hast separated from the way of the daughters of Israel, for the way or custom of the daughter of Israel is to have her head covered, but thou hast gone the way of the Gentiles, who walk with their bare head. So that there it should seem that these Corinthians follow the examples of the heathens. But then, though it might be custom for some nations for women to go abroad bareheaded, yet at their solemnities, where and when they were admitted, for they were not everywhere and always, they used to attend with their heads veiled and covered. Mr. Med takes notice, indeed, of some heathen priestesses who used to perform their religious rites and sacrifices with open face and their hair hanging down and locks spreading, in imitation of whom these women at Corinth are thought to act. However, moreover, behaved in this uncomely manner, whose example soever she followed, the apostle says, dishonoureth her head. Not her husband, who is her head in a figurative sense, and is dishonoured by her not being covered, as if she were not subject to him, all because more beautiful than he, and therefore shows herself, but her natural head, as appears from the reason given. For that is even all one as if she were shaven, to be without a veil, or some sort of covering on her head, according to the custom of the country, is the same thing as if her head was shaved, and everyone knows how dishonourable and scandalous it is for a woman to have her head shaved. And if this is the same, then it is dishonourable and scandalous to her to be without covering in public worship. And this shows that the natural head of man is meant in the preceding verse, since the natural head of the woman is meant in this. 1 Corinthians 11 verse 6. For if the woman be not covered, that is, if her head is not covered with some sort of covering, as is the custom of the place where she lives, let her also be shorn. Let her hair be cut off. Let her wear it as men do theirs. And let her see how she will like that, and how she will be looked upon, and liked by others. Everybody will laugh at her, and she will be ashamed of herself. But if it be a shame for a woman to be shorn or shaven, as it is accounted in all civilized nations, the very heathen speak of it as a thing abominable, and of which there should not be one single dreadful example, then let her be covered with a veil or any sort of covering in common use. 1 Corinthians 11 verse 7. For a man indeed ought not to cover his head. The Ethiopic version adds, while he prays, which is a proper interpretation of the words, though a wrong version. For the apostle's meaning is not that a man should not have his head covered at any time, but whilst he's in public worship, praying, prophesying, or singing of psalms. The reason is, forasmuch as he is the image and glory of God. The apostle speaks of man here as in his first creation, in his state of innocence, before his fall. But now he has sinned and defaced this image and come short of this glory, which lay partly in his body, being made after the exemplar of the body of Christ, the idea of which God had in his eternal mind, and according to which he shaped the body of Adam, and partly in his soul, in that righteousness and holiness, wisdom and knowledge, and all other excellent gifts in which it was formed. So the Jews say, the understanding is the glory of God. And it chiefly lie in the power and dominion he had over all the creatures, and even over the woman when made. At least this is principally respected here, in which there is such a shine and representation of the glory and majesty, power and dominion of God. Therefore man ought to worship him with his head uncovered, where this image and glory of God is most illustriously displayed, not but that the woman is the image and glory of God also, and was made as man after his image and likeness with respect to internal qualities, as righteousness, holiness, knowledge, and with regard to her power over the creatures, though in subjection to man, but yet man was first originally and immediately the image of glory of God, the woman only secondarily and mediately through man. The man is more perfectly and conspicuously the image and glory of God on account of his more extensive dominion and authority. But the woman is the glory of man, being made out of him, and for his help and assistance, and to be a crown of honour and glory to him. The apostle speaks the sense, and in the language of the Jews. The words in Isaiah 44:13, after the figure of a man, according to the beauty of a man, are by the Targum rendered after the likeness of a man and after the glory of a woman. And the note of a famous interpreter of theirs upon the last clause is, this is the woman, who is the glory of her husband. But why is she to be covered for this reason, when the man is to be uncovered? It is to be observed that it is in the presence and worship of God that the one is to be uncovered and the other covered, the one being the glory of God, and therefore to be uncovered before him, and the other the glory of man, therefore to be covered before God. And especially, since being first in the transgression, she who is man's glory has been the means of his shame and disgrace. The Jews seem to make this the reason of the difference. They ask, why does a man go out with his head uncovered, and a woman with her head covered? It is answered, it is like to one that has committed a sin, and he is ashamed of the children of men. Therefore she goes with her head covered. 1 Corinthians 11 verse 8. For the man is not of the woman. In the present state of things, and according to the ordinary course of generation and propagation of mankind, man is of the woman, though not without the means of man. He is conceived in her, bore by her, and born of her. For the apostle respects the original formation of man, as he was immediately made by God, out of the dust of the earth, before the woman was in being, and so not of her. But the woman of the man, she was made out of his rib, and took both her name and nature from him. God was the author, and man the matter of her being. Her original under God is owing to him, and therefore, as he was first in being, he must be superior to her. This serves to prove all that has been as yet said, as that man is the head of the woman is the glory of man, what he may glory in as being from him. And therefore there should be this difference in their appearance in public worship. 1 Corinthians 11:9. Neither was the man created for the woman, to be subservient to her, for she was not in being when he was created. And though it is the proper business of man to provide for, take care of, and defend the woman as the weaker vessel, yet these were not the original ends of his creation. He was made for God, for his service and his glory. But the woman for man, to be an helpmeet for him, who was already created, to be a companion and an associate of his, both in religious worship and civil life, and for the procreation and edification of children. 1 Corinthians 11:10. For this cause ought the woman to have power on her head. The generality of interpreters by power understand the veil, or covering on the woman's head, as a sign of man's power over her and her subjection to him, which Dr. Hammond endeavours to confirm by observing the Hebrew word which signifies a woman's veil or hood comes from the root which signifies power or dominion. But in that he is mistaken, for the word is derived from not to rule, govern, or exercise power and authority, but from to expand, stretch out, or draw over, as a woman's veil is drawn over her head and face. The Greek word, exousia, more properly signifies the power she had of putting on or off her covering as she pleased, according as times and place and persons made it necessary, because of the angels. Various other senses given of these words, some taking them in a proper, others in a figurative sense, but some in a proper sense of angels, and these are good or bad. Tertullian understands them of evil angels, and that the woman should cover her head in time of worship, lest they should lust after her, though much rather the reason should be, lest they should irritate and provoke lust in others. But it is better to understand them of good angels, who attend the assemblies of the saints and observe the air and behaviour of worship, whereof women would cover their heads with respect to them, and not give them offence, to whose pure spirits by an indecent appearance. It is agreeable to the notions of the Jews that angels attend public worship, and at the expounding of the word they often speak of an angel that is appointed over prayers. Hence, Tertullian seems to have took his notion of an angel of prayer and of angels being present at expounding the scriptures. Take the following story. It happened to Rabban Jochanan ben Zakkai that he was riding upon an ass, and as he was journeying, our Eleazar ben Arch was leading an ass after him. He said to him, Rabbi, teach me one chapter of the work of Merkavah, Ezekiel's vision. He replied to him, Not so have I taught you, nor in the Merkavah a single man, unless he was a wise man by his own industry. He answered him, Rabbi, give me leave to say one thing before thee, which thou hast taught me. Immediately Rabbi Jochanan ben Zakkai alighted from his ass, and veiled himself, and sat upon a stone under the olive tree. He said unto him, Rabbi, why dost thou alight off from the ass? He replied, It is possible that thou shouldest expound in the work of Merkavah, and the Shekinah be with us, and the ministering angels join us. And I ride upon an ass? And a little further, our Joshua and our Josh, the priests, were walking on the road. They said, Yea, let us expound the work of Merkavah. Our Joshua opened and expounded. And that day was a solstice of Tammuz, and the heavens were thickened with cloud. And there appeared the form of a bow in the cloud. And the ministering angels gathered together, and came to hear, as the children of men gather together, and come to see the rejoicings of the bridegroom and the bride.